So, do you remember when Vladimir Putin made this statement? He didn't just say Soviet collapse a genuine tragedy. No. He called it the greatest geopolitical catastrophe of the century. Okay? And I remember when he made this statement. This was way back in 2006. So the world should have seen what was coming. I remember it. He told the nation Monday that the collapse of the Soviet Empire was the greatest geopolitical catastrophe of the century and had fostered separatist movements inside Russia. In his annual State of the Nation address to Parliament and the country's top political leaders, Putin said that the Soviet collapse also was a tragedy for Russians. So, everybody should have known at that time what the plan was. You see, with the collapse of the Soviet Union came more Eastern Bloc countries joining NATO. Joining the First Rome, if you will. Now, fast forward to today. The U.S. Sun, hungry for more, fears Putin days away from annexing another part of Europe in fresh Hitler-style land grab to mark Ukraine anniversary. Now, what was it, a couple of years ago? Maybe it was last year, I can't remember, that I had done a video saying that Transnistria would be on the chopping block. It was either going to be Transnistria or Israel. Vladimir Putin could be on the brink of attempting another Hitler-style land grab in Europe to annexation of a Moldovan territory. Fears are growing that the warmongering tyrant 71 will attempt to strike at the West by announcing war plans for the former Soviet Republic that neighbors Ukraine next week. Now, so we have the foundation for the reunification of the Soviet Union in his speech all the way back in 2005, April 25th, 2005. Should have seen it coming. All right. Now, there is a rift going on between the U.S. and the EU. And it's not just between the EU and the former Trump administration, but let me show you this. For those of you who forgot, Obama-era Russian Uranium One deal, what to know? As federal investigators continue to look into Russia interference in the 2016 presidential election, prosecutors are also probing an Obama-era sale of a uranium mining company. Now, we've heard about this over and over again, but it was some investors reportedly donated millions of dollars to the Clinton Foundation. Former President Clinton also received a $500,000 speaking fee in Russia and reportedly met with Vladimir Putin about the time of the deal. Republicans who are largely critical of the deal have said. The FBI has looked into the engagement and uncoverings of some of Russia's nuclear industry officials were engaging in nefarious dealings which including extortion, bribery, and kickbacks, The Hill reported. evidence of wrongdoing by Vadim Makarin, the Russian official overseeing Putin's nuclear expansion in the U.S., who was eventually sentenced to prison, was discovered by the FBI before the deal was approved, according to The Hill. That didn't stop the deal from getting approved. So, as accusations, and maybe rightly so, because you remember, it wasn't but last week I pointed out in the video that Donald Trump said, and I quote, to any NATO countries that are not paying, they're not paying up their dues to NATO, let Russia come and get them. Let Russia come and take them. He literally said that. And if you remember, you can Google it, you can go on YouTube and search for it if you want to, but President Obama, sitting with, at that time, President of Russia, who is now, I believe, second in command in Russia, Dmitry Medvedev. Their little conversation that got caught on a hot mic. In fact, I think Obama hot mic with Medvedev. Okay. This right here. I can't hear anything, but you can see it right here. President Obama was caught in...
My last question, please. Yeah, after my election, I have more questions. Yeah, I understand. I transmit this information to Vladimir and let them.
And there you go. They're all up. They all got their noses up Vladimir Putin's rear end. All of them. All of them. Here in the United States. In fact, I'm going to go so far as to say, and some people would get really angry with me for saying this, but I'm just going to tell you exactly what I think. It reminds me of Hitler and the Soviet Union with Poland stuck in the middle. Only this time, it's the EU stuck in the middle. Now, so, is what I'm saying sounding preposterous? This is a whole nother subject, but this was back in January, and this is happening right now as we speak. EU to launch a Red Sea naval mission within 3 weeks to protect ships from continued Houthi attacks. The European Union plans to launch a naval mission in the Red Sea within 3 weeks to help defend cargo ships against attacks by the Houthi rebels in Yemen that are hampering trade and driving up prices, the bloc's diplomat said Wednesday. EU Foreign Policy Chief Joseph Borrell said that he expects the bloc's foreign ministers to sign off on the mission when they meet in February 19th. Officials say that 7 EU countries are ready to provide ships or planes. Belgium has already committed to send a frigate. Belgium. You know, the head of the EU. Germany is expected to do the same, but there's something written down here that we're going to see that is glaring. The Iranian-backed Houthis have waged a persistent campaign of drone and missile attacks on commercial ships over the Israeli offensive in Gaza against Hamas, which began in October. However, the Yemen-based rebels have frequently targeted vessels with tenuous or no clear links to Israel, imperiling shipping in a key route for global trade between Asia, the Mideast, and Europe. Notice that this affects Israel, the Mideast, Far East, and Europe. And it doesn't affect the United States. Last week, U.S. and British forces bombed multiple targets in 8 locations used by the Iranian-backed Houthis. It was the second time the two allies conducted coordinated retaliatory strikes on the rebels' missile launching capabilities. Brussels insists that the EU mission. This is not a coalition. No, this is the EU mission. Dubbed Aspides from the Greek for shield, will not take part in any military strikes and will only operate at sea. This is the purpose: protecting the ships, intercepting the attacks against the ships, not participating in any kind of action against the Houthis, only blocking the attacks of the Houthis, Borrell told reporters before chairing a meeting of the EU defense ministers in Brussels. The ministers discussed which member countries should lead the naval efforts. France, Greece, and Italy are vying for that role, and there it is right here. Notice that the United States is no longer taking a lead position with NATO countries in the EU. And why is that? The EU does no longer trust the United States anymore. So, here's a article from CNN. As Ukraine marks 2 years since Russia's invasion, Europe is facing difficult questions. As the world prepares to mark the second anniversary of Vladimir Putin's Ukraine invasion this week, Europe must ask itself some searching questions about the war that unexpectedly erupted on its borders. How can you say it unexpectedly? Back in 2006, you had 8 years advance notice. 8 years. You should have seen it coming. Vladimir Putin projected it. Back in 2005, that might have been 9 years. Arguably most important among these questions, how long did it practically sustain such draining financial support for Ukraine? Because they realize now that the U.S. is supporting Ukraine less and less and less. And why is that? The war has been... that thought is not new, but is increasingly echoed privately in some corners of the officialdom. It also reflects several current grim truths. The war has been deadlocked for some time, while last week Ukraine was forced to withdraw from the key town of Avdiivka after months of fierce fighting, marking its worst defeat since the fall of Bakhmut in May. Money desperately needed from the White House, from the United States, is stuck, having passed the Senate but waiting the House approval. Now, it looks like they might force a vote in the House and get that approval. But my point is, as time goes on, as this war wears on, there's going to be less and less and less support for this war, so much so that I'm getting reports that the Republicans in the House of Representatives are this time planning on shutting down the government in this next negotiation for continuing resolution. No serious Western voices want to abandon Kiev, but it's undeniable that fatigue is setting in as the bills grow. Since the start of the crisis, the EU and its regional allies have spent more than $100 billion funding Ukraine's defense effort, according to the Kiev Institute Ukraine Support Tracker. Earlier this month, EU leaders agreed to pay $54 billion package for Ukraine between now and 2027. The United Kingdom arguably is the major security player in the region, has also pledged more than $15 billion to Ukraine since 2022. For context, according to the Kiev Institute, the U.S. has spent $66 billion, with another $60 billion in the pipeline. Why do you think there is resistance, more and more resistance in the U.S.? And don't forget, all of these politicians had their noses up Putin's rear end, figuratively speaking, of course. Adding to these inauspicious distractions is the prospect of Donald Trump returning to the White House next year. Trump has not clearly stated what his Ukraine policy would be, save his claim that he could end the war within 24 hours. The former president's anti-NATO rhetoric, general disdain to the European Union, and odd admiration for Putin are well known. While no one knows what another Trump presidency might materially mean, it is plausible to envisage a worst-case scenario for Ukraine where it loses momentum on the ground while the new occupant of the White House decides that America has spent enough already. They're already projecting. The Europeans and CNN are already projecting that Trump is going to win this one. I don't know if he's going to win, and I really don't care, because I am not a participant in the politics of this world, but I am an observer. This is an alarming prospect for European officials who already believe Putin is digging in and trying to wait out the West. This is where the next 12 months become crucial for Ukraine's European allies. It is manifestly in continental Europe's interest that Putin does not win this war. Notice that CNN is not saying it is manifestly in continental North America's interest that Putin does not win this war. There are very few who would disagree with that sentiment. It is therefore crucial, officials say, that whatever happens in America, Europeans hold their noses and keep spending, however hard it may seem. In the run-up to the U.S. presidential election, the question of what happens to European security without America would inevitably be asked. You see what's going on here? And I've been telling you that more and more and more it looks like that the United States is going to completely withdraw. I'm not saying it's going to happen, it just looks like it. The United States is going to completely withdraw from this fiasco. And while it is true that Ukrainian security is directly tied to wider European security, the immediate question of how to support Kiev is subtly different to Europe's long-term goal of greater security, independence from D.C. What? You see what just happened here? Once again, only subtly different to Europeans' long-term goal of greater security, independence from D.C. Aha! You see what's going on, folks? I told you the division between the U.S. and the EU is growing, and now CNN is in fact admitting it. Can Europe continue funding Ukraine if the U.S. pulls financial support? Most officials argue that it can. It would be difficult, sure, but possible. The EU is very good at raising funds, and there are tools it hasn't yet used, one NATO official told CNN. Yeah, right. And they keep asking this question. The thornier issue is whether or not Europe could provide Kiev with the weapons it needs to win the war without American support. Now, of course, some might point out, and rightly so, that the United States needs to save its military hardware for a possible Chinese invasion of Taiwan. But my point is the separation of the EU, and the United States is ever growing. All right? Now, CNBC says Russia was ridiculed at the start of the war. 2 years on, it has reasons to be confident. See? Fast forward 2 years and the hopes of a Ukrainian victory looks diminished and increasingly hollow, as do Western pledges to support Ukraine for as long as it takes. As it stands, billions of dollars worth of American military aid remains unapproved, with further struggle likely ahead as war and funding fatigue grow in the run-up to the U.S. presidential election, a vote that could see the administration installed that's less sympathetic to Ukraine's war needs. In other words, the Trump administration. They all see the possible handwriting on the wall. Now, the United States removal from that situation will give Russia more confidence to do what it wants to do, like taking Transnistria. But, however, remember this. Remember Ezekiel, and this is what I'm pointing out here today, Ezekiel 38 and 39. And as I pointed out, Ezekiel 38:39 is the same as the Yoel 3 war. I pointed this out and proven it time and time again. So, go to Ezekiel 38. Go to Strong's Concordance. Please, folks, always use your Strong's Concordance so that you're not deceived by versions, polluted versions of the Scripture. See, not the word of the Lord, but the word of what? Who? What is His name? His name is Jehovah. Okay? It's not God. He never authorized anyone to call Him that name. Came unto me, saying, Son of man, set your face against Gog, the land of Magog. You can go on my YouTube channel on BitChute, and you can find, and I think you can do a search on YouTube on my channel and look up Table of Nations, Sons of Japheth. Look it up. Listen to that video. You will see I did an extensive study on that so that you know who is who in all of this. Rosh or Rosh. He is the head, the chief. Rosh, captain of Meshech. Now, yesterday, it is claimed on Wikipedia, beginning from the 16th, well, hold on. All right, let's start with here. Is mentioned along with Tubal and Rosh or Rosh in certain translations as principalities of Gog, prince of Magog, is considered a Japhetic tribe, identified by Flavius Josephus with the Cappadocian Mosocheni. Mushki also associated with the Phrygians or the Burgas. All right? their capital as Makaza, that's in what is today Turkey and in Hellenistic Roman times. But you must remember what happened to Asia Minor when the Ottoman Turks invaded. They drove these people out and up to the north. Okay? Now, I've talked extensively about the Georgians. Georgia is another name for Gog. And George itself is. And, just a side note, the ribbon of St. George, or the ribbon of Gog, is on the military hardware of Russia. Okay? I did several videos on that, and you will find it on the you'll find the ribbon of Gog on the ICBM launchers, the Yars ICBM launchers that Russia has, and they are described in Revelation 19 verse, is it 19? Oh no, it's 9. Revelation 9 verses 18 and 19. Now, beginning from the 16th century, some European scholars proposed the idea that the Muscovites had stemmed from Meshech. Sir Walter Raleigh, in 1616, attributes this opinion to Philip Melanchthon and to Benito Arias Montano, 1571. It was followed later by Jonathan Edwards. Moreover, according to a legend first appearing in the Kievan Synopsis, Moskva, was founded by King Mosok, son of Japheth, i.e. Meshech. So they're saying King Mosok was actually Meshech and was named for him and his wife, Kava. In this legend, they are also said to have a son and a daughter who gave their names to the nearby Yaza River. According to Archibald Sayce, Meshech can be identified with Muska, a name appearing in Assyrian inscriptions generally believing to refer to Mushki. What I'm saying to you today is the one who carries the ribbon of Gog, that's Gog. Now, that's not to say that Sweden, Norway, and those people are not. No, no. I'm just telling you. I will go and watch this. Ribbon of St. George. George is Gog. The ribbon of St. George, also known as St. George's ribbon, the Georgian ribbon. And the Guard's ribbon is a Russian military symbol consisting of a black and orange bicolor pattern. They changed it from black and orange to black and yellow. But either way, it is the colors of that's written about in Revelation 9, verses 18 and 19. With 3 black and 2 orange stripes, it appears as a component of many high military decorations awarded by the Russian Empire, the Soviet Union, and the current Russian Federation. See, there it is, now in yellow. But it makes no difference. And so, okay, so what I'm going to do is go to, and I will do a search here, see if I can of St. George. This is not going to search my videos, it doesn't appear like, but maybe it will. Oh, there it is, right there. See, there's my video. Ribbon of St. George identifies Gog and the perpetrator of the sixth trumpet plague. Please, folks, listen to that video. Watch that video so that you will be ready when this event occurs. Now, the Rosh, prince of Meshech, and Tubal. Now, Tubal is a city in Russia. No, the people of it was in Turkey. Okay, but not only that, or it says most reference books following Flavius Josephus identified Tubal in Ezekiel time as an area that is now in Turkey. All right. So modern scholars have identified with the biblical Tubal with Tabal. All right. An Anatolian state and region mentioned in the Tabal was a post-Hittite Luwian state in the Asia Minor. So we have the one who holds the ribbon of Gog, and we also have Turkey joining in the fray. Like I said, you can do searches on my YouTube channel or YouTube channel is better to do the searches because you can actually search inside my channel for these videos. Just type in keywords and you'll find them. Okay? Alright, so I'll make sure that they have later theories concerning Tubal. But, you know, you can go down this rabbit hole far. I will cause you to return, and I will put hooks into your jaws. So what we have here today is now going to be an era of is colonialism the word? It is something that Christians have always done, just taken over territories and pillaged their lands. Okay, and you know, today is no different. And Gomer, that was also in Asia Minor as well. No, I'm sorry, not Gomer, but the house of Togarmah. Gomer. Who are the sons of Gomer? One of the sons of Gomer is Ashkenaz. And another son of Gomer is Riphath. Riphath are the Gauls, the Irish, much of the English, but not all of the English, because the rest of the English Anglo-Saxons are Germanic tribes which are of Ashkenaz, which they are all of Gomer. The house of Togarmah and the north quarters, all of him, and it says the north quarters. So Togarmah, they say that Turkey is Togarmah, but we just identified Tubal with that. This right here says of the north. So Togarmah of the north. Of the north side. So apparently quite north. Okay, the north flanks. Oh, the extreme north. Yes, so this is going all the way north. All right. to be firm. To be firm. Congregation, an assembly. You are a guard, a watch, an observer. After many days shall be your visitation. In the last days, in the after part, and those of you who have been listening to my videos carefully, you notice that I make an emphasis on the after part. And the after part means when the time of Israel's sins are over, when it's time to gather all Israel back. In the after part, you shall come into the land, which is brought back from the sword, which was taken back. Well, the land what is taken back, and is gathered out of the many peoples. Okay? From the sword which collect abundance of people, which is brought back from the sword, and you will gather and collect many people against the mountains of Israel. Which were continually wasted, but is now, what is it? Continually wasted by the folk. To dwell safely, all of them. So it does appear his saying is that there will be some people that are gathered out of the Gentiles and will dwell safely. You shall ascend and come like a storm, and you shall be like a cloud to cover the land, you and all your army, and abundance of people with you. Does Lord God say anything? The Lord God can't say anything. However, Adonai, Yehovah, says, and it shall come to pass in that same time shall things come into your mind. Colonialism, conquering. We read a little bit about that in an article from 2005. You shall think an evil thought, and you shall say, I will go up to the land of unwalled villages, unwalled hamlets. Well, Jerusalem is not a land of unwalled hamlets, open region hamlets, but northern Israel is. When I say northern Israel, I mean around the Golan Heights. I'm not talking about Jaffa. I will go to them that are undisturbed, that dwell in security, dwelling without walls, having neither bars nor gates. It's not talking about Jerusalem. See, the Northern Army is not coming to invade Jerusalem. That's going to be, it may well be that they will try to invade Jerusalem after a defeat, but I think that is the Jordanians and possibly even the Egyptians that are going to try to invade Jerusalem. Having neither bars, so they're going to come to the north part to take a spoil. And of course, the Jordanians and the Egyptians would try to do that while the Northern Army is trying to take the Golan Heights. You know, take advantage of the mayhem, to take a prey, to turn your hand upon the desolate places that are inhabited, upon the people that have been gathered out of the Gentiles, which have gotten cattle and goods to dwell in the midst of the land. Sheba and Dedan, and the merchants of Tarshish. But not just merchants of Tarshish, they're young lions. They're Kaphir, they're young lions. So Tarshish and either the young lions singular or plural, because it doesn't say singular or it says both. So it could be the great young lion of Tarshish shall say unto you, are you come to take a spoil? Have you gathered your company to take a prey, to carry away silver and gold, to take away cattle and goods, to take a great spoil? This is the time that Jehovah Adonai Jehovah spoke of in old days by my servants the prophets of Israel, which prophesied in those days many years. Haggai 2, verses 18 through 22. That I would bring you against them, and it shall come to pass at that same time when God will come up against the land of Israel, says Adonai Jehovah, that my fury will come up in my face, for my jealousy and in my wrath have I spoken. Surely in that day there will be a great quaking in the land of Israel, so that the fish of the sea and the fowls of the sky and the beasts of the field and all the creeping things that creep upon the arets or the Adamah, the land, and all the men that are upon the face of the earth shall shake at my presence, and the mountains shall be thrown down, and steep places shall fall, and every wall shall fall to the ground. I will call for a sword against him in the mountains, says Adonai Jehovah. Every man's sword shall be against his brother. This apparently starts World War III. Let me rephrase that. World War III has literally already started. This starts the brother against brother conflict that is written about in Zechariah 14, that is written about in, and when I talk about Zechariah 14, I'm talking about the plague of the eyes rotting out of their skulls. Now, maybe I should go and look this up. All right, so Zechariah 14. Now, what I want everybody to understand about Zechariah 14 is this right here, this section right here, starts from when Jerusalem was destroyed in 70 AD all the way to the very end. Okay? Okay, so behold, the day of Jehovah's wrath comes, and it came upon Jerusalem, 70 AD. Your spoil shall be divided in the midst of you, for I will gather the Gentiles against Jerusalem in battle, and the city shall be taken. And it was. The houses were rifled. It was. And the women were laid down. That's what it says. And half of the city went into captivity. And the rest of the people, does not say shall not be cut off. The rest of the people were killed. They were murdered. This was the Roman invasion. It says, and the rest of the people, abundant of the people, will be cut down in the city. In the city. Now, in retaliation for this, Jehovah will go forth and fight against those nations when he fights in the day of battle. When the day of wrath comes upon the Gentiles, as I have showed you, these are two separate events, but one event is caused by the other. The Roman invasion back in 70 AD is going to cause this event that Jehovah is going to do to the Gentiles. What event is that? Okay? Verse 12, and there shall be a plague, a stroke, a blow, a slaughter. You see the words, the key words here. Wherewith Jehovah, not the Lord, will smite the people who fought against Jerusalem, Rome. Their flesh shall consume away while they stand upon their feet. These are nuclear weapons. How do I know this? Let's continue reading. And their eyes shall consume away in their holes, and their tongue shall consume away in their mouth. In that day, a great tumult, confusion, mayhem from Jehovah shall be among them, and they shall lay hold every one on the hand of his neighbor, and his hand shall rise up against the hand of his neighbor, while Yehuda is fighting at Jerusalem. So it's all about, and see, yes, the Egypt and Jordan, they're going to come attack Jerusalem, while the Ezekiel 38 war is occurring, while the Yoel 3 war is occurring. Every man's sword shall be against his brother. And during this time, there is going to be an event where nukes are going to be exploded, as you plainly saw in Zechariah 14. Their flesh shall consume away while they are standing upon their feet. How is that going to happen? When their hand is against the hand of his neighbor, and his hand, another man's hand against his neighbor. You have all these nations upon the earth that have nuclear weapons now, who hate each other. All right, you have Russia, Europe, United States, and Israel. And you have India and Pakistan that are ready to nuke each other. All right. But this event is going to occur, is it in Israel? Is that what it says? This shall be the plague of the horse, of the mule, of the camel, of the ass, of all the beasts in these tents. As these are the lands of the people who came to invade. All the beasts, all the beasts, the cattle, their lands are going to be destroyed by these nuclear weapons. It begins in Israel when they invade. And we read here, and it's not moving, so I guess I got to go to 39 manually here. Son of man, prophesy against Gog, and say, thus saith Adonai Jehovah, behold, I am against you, O Gog, Rosh, prince of Meshech and Tubal. I will cause you return, and not leave but the sixth part of you. And lead on. Shah means to lead on. To go and come up from the north parts, and will bring you upon the mountains of Israel, and I will smite your bow out of your left hand, and will cause your arrows to fall out of your right hand. So what's going on here? Here is, how do you call it, the retaking of the Soviet Union, and also taking more, including Israel. Now, once again, I pointed out to you that Russia said it has no interest in NATO countries. Transnistria is not a NATO country. Moldova is not a NATO country. Israel is not a NATO country. Do you understand what I'm saying here? So it is possible that the direct conflict between the two powers, or between Europe and Russia, yes, I said that because that's exactly what it says up here in the next few verses, is going to occur when the invasion of Israel occurs. You see? So Russia knows about NATO's attack on one is attack on all, so apparently they're going to try to take the leftovers of what NATO took. In other words, what didn't join NATO. So there's really not a whole lot left for Russia to take. Maybe Serbia, maybe Moldova, Transnistria. There's some. You can look it up, you can find it, and Israel. They've already taken Syria, if you want to know the truth. And you shall fall upon the mountains of Israel, you and your army and the people that are with you. And I will give you to the ravenous birds of every sort, to the beasts of the field to be devoured. And you shall fall in the open field, for I have spoken, it says, Adonai Yehovah. And I will send a fire on Magog. What fire is that? Oh, the one in Zechariah 14. And among that dwell carelessly in the coastlands. Who are they? The coastlands. Roman Empire. There it is right there, folks. Those who dwell carelessly, the EU, Europe, the Roman Empire. Then nukes will be falling. Because you see, who was it that invaded in 70 AD? It was the Roman Empire who did this. So, there is going to be retaliation. He's going to cause them to use nukes against each other. And then on top of that, then he's going to send the two witnesses, which is one reason why I wear this potato sack that people have made fun of with the Jude tag on me, with a yellow Mogan David. And I do this to remind each and every one of you that the two witnesses are coming, and they're going to bring plagues upon the earth, and the very first one they're not going to remove until they are dead. And that first plague is no rain upon the earth. Your crops will be destroyed. So, we can see the creeping of Russia, trying to regain what left there is a possibility of the former Soviet Union. And they've had their eyes on Israel. They started the 1967 war, I do believe. You can do your research, folks. Did Russia start or instigate? Yes, they did. The 67 war. Or it could have been the 72 war. The role of the USSR played in the June 1967 war between the State of Israel and the surrounding Arab countries remain fiercely debated. Some scholars have argued that Moscow started the war in order to further its position in the area and increase Arab reliance on Soviet aid. So, folks, come on. Let's raise our IQ level above room temperature and understand that just as Vladimir Putin said that the collapse of the Soviet Union was the worst catastrophe in this century. The USSR, the Soviet Union, was trying to further its position in the area, like they're doing right now, and increase Arab reliance on Soviet aid. And this is the reason why, and they even threatened to nuke Israel. They did. You can do your research. See, the Soviets chose to involve Egypt in the conflict due to the fear that an incident between Syria and Israel would likely lead to serious defeat. So the point is, and they're in Syria right now, the Russians are. They want the Middle East. The Russians, the Soviet Union, the former Soviet Union, the Russian Federation, they want the Middle East. And really, where else are they going to go to get back the old Soviet glory days but the Middle East? The Soviets also viewed Israel's victory in the 1967 war as damaging to themselves because this one nation had the ability to destroy multiple Arab countries that had been supplied with Soviet military hardware, and it's going to happen again. And remember what, where is that? And you can see in this, yeah, I showed you that. What, where is this? I missed something here. I had it, must have had it on my other, I can't believe that I lost it. Oh, there it is right there in front of me. The Standard. Remember this? Oh, you don't remember it. So let me go ahead and read it for you. Former Russian President Dmitry Medvedev has warned of total war if Russia was forced to return to its 1991 borders. What that means is, that's a signal to the whole world that Russian expansionism has begun. And if Russia is forced to remain at its 1991 borders, that Russia threatens to unleash entire arsenal on London if it loses war in Ukraine. All right? So the Kremlin says it will use its entire strategic arsenal and fire nuclear missiles at London, Washington, Berlin, and Kiev if it is made to give up areas of Ukraine it has invaded. What's going to happen when they try to invade, when they try to take the Golan Heights? Go look at my video concerning Israel's Samson Option. And don't just listen to the video. I don't want to hear your stupid comments that some of you on BitChute, well, and one person on YouTube, without watching the video first, because I'm giving you articles of what these things mean. I have provided articles about what the Samson Option is, what it's for, and the fact that Israel will, if Israel is surrounded and looks like they're going to lose, they are going to launch nukes on the ones who are attacking them, but also on the ones who were their prior enemies, Russia and EU capitals. They said so. Former Russian President Dmitry Medvedev, who is a close ally of Vladimir Putin, has warned of total war if Russia was forced to return to its 1991 borders established at the collapse of the Soviet Union. Instead, Medvedev suggests Kiev and the West should allow Putin to have areas of Ukraine he believes are part of Russia, the Mirror reports. Any attempt to return Russian borders to 1991 will lead to only one thing, toward a global war with Western countries using the entire strategic arsenal of our state. Kiev, Berlin, London, and Washington. So, folks, you see all the evidence presented to you in advance of the Ezekiel 38-39 war, of the Yoel 3 war, how it's going to occur. And I probably need to bring up the Samson option once again, just for a reminder of how it will probably go down. Somewhere down here, deterrence doctrine. Okay. Set to remote detonate nuclear mountaintop. All right. Israel reporter Ari Shavit writes of Israel's nuclear strategy. Concerning anything and everything nuclear, Israel will be much, much more cautious than the United States and NATO. Concerning anything and everything nuclear, Israel would be the responsible adult of the international community. It would well understand the formidable nature of the demon and keep it locked in the basement. Now, some have written about the Samson option as a retaliation strategy. Yes, retaliation strategy. In 2002, the Los Angeles Times published an opinion piece by Louisiana State University professor David Perlmutter, which the American Jewish author Ron Rosenbaum writes goes so far as to justify a Samson option approach. Israel has been building nuclear weapons for 30 years. The Jews understand what passive and powerless acceptance of doom has meant for them in the past, and they have insured against it. Masada was not an example to follow. It hurt the Romans not a whit. But Samson in Gaza? No. They would always, in Gaza, use conventional forces. What would serve the Jew-hating world better in repayment for thousands of years of massacres but a nuclear winter, or invite all those tut-tutting European statesmen and peace activists to join us in the ovens? For the first time in history, a people facing extermination while the world either cackles or looks away, unlike the Armenians, Tibetans, World War II, European Jews, or Rwandans, have the power to destroy the world, the ultimate justice. Rosenbaum writes in his 2012 book, How the End Begins, and folks, it probably wouldn't be a bad idea to get this book. The Road to a Nuclear World War III, that in his opinion, in the aftermath of a second Holocaust, Israel could bring down the pillars of the world, attack Moscow and European capitals, for instance. And what did we just read in Ezekiel 38-39? He says, I will send a fire on Magog and among those that dwell carelessly in the coastlands, and they shall know Jehovah. And when we go down and scroll down here, then comes the restoration of Israel. Who's going to lead the restoration effort? The two witnesses. I will set my glory among the Gentiles, and all the Gentiles shall see my judgment, which I have executed in my hand that I have laid upon them, so that the house of Israel shall know Jehovah. Elohim, not God. You can see right there, Elohim, from that day and forward. So Israel will not know Jehovah Elohim until you and the enemies of Israel come to attack the Jews again. and try to exterminate them. Try to create another yet Holocaust. This time is going to be different. And the Gentiles shall know that the house of Israel went into captivity for their iniquity, because they trespassed against me, and therefore I hid my face from them and gave them into the hand of their enemies. And this is how they fell by the sword, according to their uncleanness, according to their transgressions have I done unto them, and I hid my face from them. Now, says Adonai Yehovah, I will bring again the captives of Jacob, and have mercy upon the whole house of Israel, and be jealous for my holy name, the name that you Gentiles have slandered, have demonized, have desecrated beyond imagination. You Christians did this. After they bore their shame and all the trespasses which they have trespassed against me, when they dwelt safely, and none made them afraid. Now I'm going to bring them back again, cause them to return from the people, and gather them out of their enemies' lands, and will be sanctified in them in the sight of many Gentiles. Many Gentiles. Gentiles. And they shall know Jehovah. You see it right there. Elohim. You see it right there. It's not God or Got, which caused them to be led into captivity among the Gentiles, but I have gathered them from their own land, and have left none of them there any more. Neither will I hide my face from them any more, for I have poured out my Ruach upon the house of Israel, says Adonai Yehovah. And there is nothing you Christians can do about it. You are going to murder each other and destroy each other with your demonic weapons. You're going to do it. And Israel is going to turn loose the Samson Option. And when it does, this nuclear war between the nations are going to occur. And Jehovah is going to come. Yes, Jehovah is going to come and bring Yehoshua with him, and going to set up the kingdom in Jerusalem. The new Jerusalem is going to come down out of the sky. The living water coming from underneath the throne is going to pour into the rivers of Israel and heal the land and heal the people and everyone who is invited in will either be already impervious to the nuclear fallout or will be healed by the tree of life that will be growing along the rivers coming from under the throne of Jehovah. That's right, the tree of life. So, it should be enough for today, but what I'm trying to tell you this today is you see everything that is written in the scripture advancing towards the end. And it's not even in a quick way. It's slowly. I'd expect it in a quicker way. But it's happening slowly. And yet the people still don't see it coming. That's amazing to me. That's the part that is most amazing.